the lighthouse keeper and the winter fox. On the northernmost edge of the rugged Scottish coast, where the land finally surrenders to the endless, gray sea, stood a lighthouse. Its name was Solas, Gaelic for light. For over 200 years, its beam had cut through gales and fog, a steady, circling promise. You are not lost. Here is home. But within the lighthouse itself, a different kind of fog had settled. Its keeper was a man named Arran. Once, his hands were steady, his eyes sharp, scanning the horizon. He'd loved the roar of the storm, the salt on his lips, the vital importance of his watch. That was before the letter came, the one that told him his brother, a sailor on a merchant ship, was lost to a storm in the North Atlantic. No body recovered, just gone. Now, Arran's world had shrunk to the circular rooms of Solas. His hands, which once polished lenses and trimmed wicks, now often lay still in his lap. The fog outside seemed to have seeped into his bones. He performed his duties. The light still turned, the logs were still marked, but it was all mechanical, silent. The lighthouse, once a symbol of guidance, felt to Arran like a beautiful, lonely prison. He spoke only to the radio for weather checks, his voice a rusty hinge. Winter arrived early and fierce. A blizzard howled in from the sea, whiting out the world, a fury of ice and wind. It was during this tempest, late at night, that Arran heard it. Not the wind scream, but a different sound. A sharp, desperate scratching at the heavy oak door at the base of the tower. He thought it was the storm playing tricks. But it came again, insistent. Scritch, scritch, pause, scritch, scritch. Cautiously, he unbolted the door, the wind nearly tearing it from his grasp. And there, half buried in a drift, was a creature of the most improbable gold. A fox, but not like any he'd seen. Its coat was a vibrant, fiery red gold, stark against the white, and its eyes were not the sly, cunning beads of folklore, but wide, intelligent pools of amber, filled with pure, undiluted panic. One of its hind legs was held at an awkward angle, clearly broken or badly injured. For a long moment, man and animal stared at one another across the threshold of storm and shelter. The fox was trembling, not just from cold, but from pain and terror. Arran's first instinct, honed by years of solitude, was to close the door. The wild did not belong inside, but then he saw the fox try to move, a small, pathetic whimper escaping it. It wasn't a predator at his door. It was a refugee. "All right," Arran murmured, his voice unfamiliar to his own ears. "All right, come in then." He stepped back. The fox, with a monumental effort, dragged itself over the stone step and collapsed on the rough mat inside, panting clouds of steam. Arran quickly closed the door on the roaring world. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the fox's ragged breaths and the muffled howl outside. What followed were days of careful, wordless negotiation. Arran cleared out an old storage closet, lining it with blankets. He named the fox Sìth, after the mythical, often tricky fairies of Scottish lore, for its unexpected arrival. But this Sìth was not tricky. She was watchful, proud, but her eyes held a deep gratitude. Arran remembered first aid from his youth. He fashioned a splint for her leg from a spoon and strips of cloth. He left bowls of water and scraps of meat first at the far end of the room, then closer as trust slowly, incrementally, built. He spoke to her as he worked, not profound speeches, but the simple mundane thoughts of his day, the barometers dropping again. Need to check the generator, pea soup for dinner again. Sìth listened. Her ears would twitch, her amber eyes following him. She never tried to bite or snarl. Even when he reset the splint, her only reaction a sharp intake of breath. Her silence felt companionable, not empty. As her leg healed, Sìth began to explore. She would limp after him up the spiral staircase, her claws clicking on the iron steps, a quiet shadow in the circling beam of the great light. She'd sit by the panoramic windows, watching the sea with what seemed like a solemn understanding. She brought, for the first time in months, a sense of life, of another conscious presence into the stone tower. One afternoon, Arran found himself sitting on the floor, his back against a wall staring at nothing. A heavy wave of grief had rolled over him, the kind that made even breathing an effort. He didn't weep, he just felt hollowed out, a shell. Then, he felt a warmth against his side. Sìth had limped over and settled herself beside him, her head resting lightly on his thigh. She didn't look at him, didn't demand anything. She simply offered the solid, warm, living reality of her presence. He let his hand fall, and his fingers brushed the thick, soft fur between her ears. A deep, rumbling purr vibrated through her body, a sound foxes aren't supposed to make, but she did. And in that moment, the terrible, icy loneliness inside him cracked. Just a little. Sìth became his silent therapy. She pulled him back into the rhythm of life. Her hunger meant he cooked proper meals. Her need to go outside on she could meant he braved the fresh air, noticing the subtle shift from winter to the first promise of spring. A single, brave snowdrop by the path. He began sketching her in the logbook margins, curled up sleeping, her head cocked in curiosity. He found himself explaining the lighthouse mechanism to her, the prism that magnified the tiny bulb into a beam seen for 20 miles. For an audience of one attentive fox, the importance of the light, of being a guide, began to seep back into his soul. The day Sìth's splint came off for good, she tested her leg, then bounded up the stairs with a fluid grace Arran had never seen. She was whole again, and with that wholeness came a restlessness. She began to spend more time at the windows, her nose pressed to the glass, watching the gulls and the stirrings in the gorse beyond the perimeter wall. The wild was calling its daughter home. Arran knew it was coming. The knowledge was a bittersweet ache in his chest. One morning in early spring, with a soft breeze carrying the scent of thawing earth, he opened the heavy door. Sìth stepped out. She turned and looked at him, her amber eyes holding that same deep intelligence. There was no dramatic farewell, no lingering sadness in her gaze. It was simply a look of acknowledgement, of a debt paid and a bond that would remain, though its form would change. She turned and trotted away, her golden coat soon disappearing into the vibrant green of the renewed hillside. The lighthouse felt emptier, but it was a different kind of empty now. Not the hollow echo of loss, but a quiet, clean space, like a room after a guest has departed, leaving behind the memory of good company. Arran returned to his duties, but now, when he polished the great lens, he did it with care, not just routine. When he lit the lamp at dusk, he whispered, "For all who are lost." He thought of his brother with a sadness that was no longer drowning, but had become a part of him, like the seascape outside his window. He was not cured. Grief does not vanish. But the frozen sea inside him had begun to thaw, unlocked by the quiet, persistent warmth of an unexpected companion. Weeks later, on a clear evening, as Arran scanned the cliffs with his telescope, he saw a flash of gold. There, on a high rocky outcrop, sat Sìth. Beside her, tumbling and playing, were 3 small, fuzzy kids. She had returned to her life, thriving. She looked toward the lighthouse, and even across the distance, Arran felt seen. He raised a hand in a slow salute. Sìth did not come back to his door, but sometimes, at the edge of the tree line at dusk, he would see a flash of fire in the gathering shadows. And on the roughest nights, when the storm screamed against the glass, he would sometimes imagine a small golden shadow keeping watch with him, a silent testament that even in the coldest winter, a spark of wild, gentle grace can find its way in and relight the lamp within a darkened heart.